All right, so welcome back to No Kings on the Hill, where we take a breath from the shouting and look squarely at power and accountability and the results of government policy at home and abroad. Today is a hard episode, not because of the headlines, but because of the experience. The first half of the show is not theory or speculation or political rhetoric. It is an eyewitness account of what happens when power is centralized and unaccountable and what the cost of liberty really are. So we're going to kind of go over get more into it here in a minute. I've got to play a little word from our sponsors, and then I will get into the full part of the episode today.
Heard of Q Broadcast? It's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q Broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Starz. And the best part? There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
Alrighty, and we are back. So, kind of good today is we are going to talk a lot about tyranny in the United States in history books or at foreign regimes or in abstract arguments about ideas and political philosophies. But for the people who have to live under tyranny, it's not an abstraction. It has faces and names and victims. Today, we're talking about the aftermath of Nicolas Maduro, who has weaponized the Venezuelan state against political opponents, made political opposition a crime, and dissent a prison sentence. Venezuela has been a living example of what happens when institutions erode, when power consolidates, and when government stops responding to its own people. The first half of today's show is built around an interview with a former political prisoner of the Maduro regime, a man who was kidnapped, detained, and imprisoned simply for who he was and what he represented. This is not a political hatchet job. This is a conversation about freedom and coercion and the very real human cost of authoritarianism. We will also discuss the large implications of the moves made against Maduro this week, especially the constitutional and legal issues that arise when the U.S. confronts narco-terrorism regimes that operate across borders but still harm Americans and U.S. interests. These are not simple issues. They deserve sober analysis and not just emotional sloganeering. After that, we'll pivot back to U.S. soil because the standard for accountability has to apply at home as well. In the second half of the show, we will discuss new details on welfare fraud and the political reaction in Minnesota, where Tim Walz has declared he will not run for re-election, but has refused calls to resign and instead is blaming political opponents without taking responsibility for or responding to the substance of the allegations against him. That's the contrast we need to talk about: responsibility versus deflection. Tyranny abroad and governance at home are not separate conversations. They connect on a single question: what happens when people in power are not held accountable to the people? That's what today's episode is about. Not anger, not tribalism, facts, accountability, and context. So let's go get into it. So usually he's just my co-host, but today Joe St. Clair is actually also going to be the person doing the interview. We are going to go ahead and play his interview from the other night that he was at when he was on America's.
About being anti-Trump.
when he was on the news on the
Grant
Tonight.
Stinchfield, Real America's Voice.
Yeah, Real America's Voice.
Very solid dude. And I'm going to be appearing on Jason Rams tomorrow. If anybody lives in the Seattle or Washington State area, I'll be going on his radio show tomorrow as well.
All right, so we'll go ahead and play this. And
not pro people. And I can tell you this, no one knows more about how brutal Nicolas Maduro was to anybody that disagreed with him, including Americans. I'm so honored to have on the program now a former, recent Maduro regime hostage, U.S. Air Force veteran Joe St. Clair. We talked a lot about him on this program. Joe, welcome home. It is great to have you back, and you must be thrilled about the news over the weekend.
Hi, Grant. First, I want to say thank you to you and your team for platforming my father and interviewing him, because without your help and support, really the fire to get me out of there wouldn't have occurred. I know that during the Biden regime, nobody knew where I was. For 3 months, I was held under a false name. So on one hand, when I see Maduro with the headset and the mask over his eyes, I do feel, somewhat vindicated. And the truth is, he kept a bag over my head for 6 months and attempted to disappear me permanently. And what he's done to the Venezuelan people, and even to their close neighbors, the Colombians, is on another level. As brutal as he is to, those he views as his enemies, they weren't going to the extent with Americans as they were with Latinos. It really is sad. And to those who think that, who believe Maduro when he says he's a good person, it's not true. It's absolutely not true. He does not honor basic human rights. And if you don't believe this, take a flight to Colombia, take a flight to Brazil, go near the border of Venezuela, and see what happens. See it, like, these people
Joe,
will brutalize you in your face.
That's what happened to you. You're on vacation and get scooped up. I believe they probably figured out exactly who you are. And being an Air Force veteran, that made you an even more probably target for them. Now, they scoop you up, take you down there. What was life like for you? How long were you there again? And tell me what life was like for you.
Yeah, so I was there for just under 6 months, and your last guest, the situation he described was eerily similar to what occurred to me. Like many of the other Americans, EU citizens, and citizens from 30 countries all over the world that ended up in this black site prison where I was at, Maduro's personal prison. Most of us were traveling with people we were dating or loved ones or family members. And unfortunately, there's nothing, once they had gotten me, essentially, I knew that I was done for because I had a gun to my face. At first, it seemed like they were just trying to get a bribe or possibly rob me. And then they started going through my phone and they found a photo of me in uniform. At that point, I became the trophy prize. So on one hand, that was terrifying. On the other hand, I knew, okay, they're probably not going to kill me, even though they're threatening to do so. But I also had to think about, I have somebody with me that also, they're not American, they're Venezuelan. And whatever I do will affect them. But I was hogtied, driven 12 hours to Caracas, and taken to the headquarters of what is their NSA or CIA, DGCIM. And for the first three weeks I was there, I was kept in solitary confinement without a bathroom in a room that was about 40 degrees, concrete bed, and had no outside communication. And the only way I got out of there, honestly, was I said, okay, I'll tell you whatever I need to tell you. Just let me out of the cell. And when I did that, they pulled me out and I said, hey, the only thing that matters is my life. And if you put me down there, I'm not going to survive, and I'm not going down there right now. I'm going to resist. From there, I was sent to the prison that's on the screen. That's Rodeo Uno. And as you can tell, the conditions are extremely abysmal. The government forces, the soldiers, I really feel for them because they're just as much hostage as the people they're guarding. And I was not surprised to see that there was no anti-aircraft, artillery firing at our planes, because these Venezuelan soldiers do not have the will to fight. I had several come up to me and whisper in my ear, hey, here's my Instagram. When you get out of here, I'll pass you information. If you can get me safe to the United States, I'll do so. So up to field grade level officers in their own CIA. So yeah, the conditions were terrible.
Had you been in contact with any of those soldiers since?
I had, so they, weirdly enough, as I was getting flown out, I was rescued on my own. And it was about a 24-hour process. If you look at the photos of when I came back, they actually forcibly shaved my head because I understood they weren't going to respect my rights as a human being, as American, but I appealed to their religious senses. And I said I was a Nazarene Christian. I wouldn't cut my beard or my hair. But, you know, just to show the level of depravity, before I left, 8 guys tied me down and just forcibly shaved my head. But those agents have since reached out to contacts that I know from my ex in Colombia, and they've attempted to make contact with me. I've not done so just because I feel a little sketchy about it. But certainly other hostages who are there, their family members live in Caracas. So as soon as this hit, within 20 minutes, our group chats were blowing up, and we already knew it was going down.
So, Joe, I guess the question to you then, there is a possibility that with Maduro gone, the pressure from President Trump and the United States military, that there could be a collapse of Maduro's regime and those inside that literally want out of that as well. Do you think?
Yeah, I think that what you see here is probably 90% of the population want Maduro out. And it's important to note that in this black site prison, you know, there were Venezuelan loyalist soldiers who were, you know, dead to rights Chavistas. Their former economic minister was there. Journalists who just released economic data were there. And everyone there was afraid to utter the name Maduro. They had to do a curled mustache to talk about him. So on one hand, yes, the Venezuelan people want to be rid of this guy, but they also want to be rid of the system because it is an organized cartel. It is a criminal gang element, and they act that way. That's why they can't actually collect on people's cell phones. They force people to, they have checkpoints every 10 miles to open people's phones and search for the name Maduro. Or if you have an American contact, you're going to get sent to one of these prisons. Or if you've entered the United States illegally and you're deported, you're going to one of these prisons. So those people are really, you know, it's really tragic what's happening to them. But that being said, DGCIM and Sabine, they're all implicated in this. And I'm not surprised. I've seen a couple of videos of them saying they're ready to stand a fight. But many people don't know that there's also 15 other high-level individuals in Venezuela who have been indicted, who have, you know, the same price tags on their heads. And of course, these people are going to try to hold on to power. So my message to, you know, American forces and as well as the Venezuelans who are moving into power, you know, these elements need to be dealt with. I don't think this is in Iraq. I don't think this is a forever war. I think this was perfectly executed, and the Venezuelan people need to step up and, you know, lead this change at this point.
Joe, last question for you before I let you go. And so glad you're home. Your message to President Trump, he was really the one responsible, that administration, President Trump, others, of getting you freed, and the others that were freed. There were other American hostages we profiled. Your message to him about the weekend and getting you free real quick.
You know, I owe my life to President Trump. I had 2 things that kept me alive and kept me strong. One was my faith in God and, you know, going back to that. But the other was knowing Trump is going into office. And I had been sequestered and kept from the other Americans for the first month I was there. But when I showed up, they had all lost all hope. They had protested. They had broken out of their cells. And like me, they were under false names. So I told them, I said, hey, the truth is, guys, we're not getting out until January 20th. But by the end of the second week that he had gotten into office, we got out and hope was restored. And every Venezuelan in that country was rooting and praying and hoping for a U.S. intervention for at least the last 3 years. Wow. So thank you, Trump, and thank you for what you did this weekend. You were used by God this weekend.
Okay, so I want to do one little thing because I saw what somebody had said there, and before I ask Joe some more questions, and because I saw some of the questions there in the comments. Okay, so let's be very clear about the constitutional question regarding last Saturday night's action in Venezuela. Article 2 of the Constitution designates the President of the United States as the Commander-in-Chief of our armed forces. The grant of authority is not just ceremonial. It is for times exactly like this, when the United States and American citizens are being attacked, and inaction will cost American lives. This was not a war of choice. This was a defensive action permitted under U.S. law. Nicolas Maduro has been designated as a narco-terrorist. That means he is not just a foreign head of state, which he's not recognized as one, but the head of a criminal organization, actively engaged in conduct that harms the United States every day through drug trafficking, organized crimes, and acts of planned and organized violence. The Supreme Court has long acknowledged that Not all conflicts meet the traditional definition of declared wars. In Bass v. Tingy and Talbot v. Seaman, the court noted that the Constitution permits limited hostilities, use of force short of war, where national interest and safety require. But most importantly, Maduro was holding American citizens hostage. The president's responsibility to protect Americans abroad is one of the oldest and least controversial uses of executive power. In the prize cases, the court confirmed that when Americans are attacked, the president need not wait for Congress to go first. He can act immediately to defend the nation and its people. This was not speculative harm. As recently as 2025, Americans were kidnapped in South America and held for ransom by the Maduro regime. I mean, obviously, one right here is my co-host, Joe St. Clair, a decorated veteran of the United States Air Force. Joe was kidnapped in 2024 while traveling through South America to get treatment for his PTSD. He was entitled to for his service to his country. He was held captive for months until President Trump and his team secured his release in early 2025. Joe's captivity by itself changes the legal analysis when a foreign leader or organization unlawfully detains and abducts American citizens. The president is not waging war. He is enforcing the law and protecting Americans. That power is rooted directly in Article 2 and has been used by Democratic and Republican presidents for decades. So this has nothing to do with the War Powers Resolution Act. It has nothing to do with that. This has strictly to do with the fact that he was going in there, and now obviously everybody's going, oh, it's the oil, it's oil. No, it's more than just the oil. It's more of hurting China and Russia without actually going to war with them. If you look at it, they were looking at the numbers today. Cuba gets 90% of its oil from Venezuela. China gets about 60% of its oil reserves from Venezuela, and Russia gets close to 70% of its oil reserves from Venezuela. So it's about national security. Now, obviously, they're like, oh, we'll get oil. Yeah, we'll get oil cheaper, but also now the oil actually getting transported out there and done correctly. Now these citizens of Venezuela will benefit for it. Now, Alicia, I don't know, Joe, if you saw what the reports were this morning, that I guess the what's her name, the new president's kind of going after people, and there was now some people leaving, even though they don't know really how many, they can tell really how many were crossing the border because of what's going on there, or versus it was just people who have already previously lived there, worked in that were working in Colombia originally because it was better pay, and then living in Venezuela. How many of the new people it was?
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, that border is very porous. People move back and forth across it with relative ease. I had heard before this operation kicked off, I have a couple of people who are American who live or own property or apartments in that area, and they had reached out to me through social media just asking me what happened to me and if they were safe, because they started noticing the presence of armed Venezuelans and armed Colombian officials as well. And I had heard that the Colombian armed forces had reinforced that border and shut things down initially, but I think due to the fact that there's no widespread violence in Venezuela at this point, I think it's shifted, and I think things are looking relatively stable. The number 3 guy in the Venezuelan government, named Diosdado Cabello, the one who controls their FBI, which is their Sabine, and a great deal of influence over their DGCAM. Even he, according to the Venezuelans who watch his podcast, even he's kind of towing the line. But, there are some predictions that there's going to be an internal struggle. It does seem like, what's her name? Dulce?
Yeah, she wants to stay in.
Dulce Rodriguez. I did not really know who she was either before this took place. I knew she was his vice president, but I've read up on her since. But certainly the element I was interacting with was more the element that dealt with Diosdado.
Rick Young, I just said that Venezuelans suppressing their people in China. That's why people are fleeing, because Dulce was starting to try to suppress them and stuff. Now,
Yeah,
obviously,
it's not that we're missing. It's colectivos are going through and telling people do not protest, and they're searching for people who posted anything in favor of the strike. But there's no widespread violence. There's a difference between suppression versus silence.
Yeah,
or
and
violence. Sorry.
And the thing is Trump still plans on forcing them to run an election to get dulce pretty much so the people can vote out all the Maduro people. But here's the thing. If he goes in there right now and just totally wipes her out, then you're going to have destabilization. Then you're going to have an issue. So right now it's more like, okay, she may not be the perfect choice, but she's better than Maduro. And once we can get some control going, then at that time, then we can force them into run an election, which they've got roughly, according to the Venezuelan constitution, is 30 days to run an election since they switched to the vice president. So, I mean, obviously he's not forcing an election today or tomorrow, but right now he's working on getting oil deals and stuff and like that, and getting them to allow American companies in there to fix the oil stuff and like that and get that going.
You lagged out for me.
All right, let me go off on with you now. Should be good to go.
Okay. Well, I know we kind of got interrupted there.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. It was weird technical difficulty. It like I thought maybe I'd lost power or something, but it wasn't power because it's not like everything went out. It was just my computer, like my camera, my computer and stuff, everything shut down and went, like the power was done, but everything else was fine. It was weird as can be.
You wanna do me a favor and pull up that article I sent you to your email on the BBC real quick?
Yeah, give me a second. I'm still getting everything else back up. I'm still getting all of my thought it was going to reopen all of my pages, but it opened all three. Where did the third one go to? Put it back over here for some reason. All right. Let me get all my pages back up. At least it can restore everything here. Was there a video on the BBC one, or was it just?
No, I want to show the guy's picture.
Okay, let me get that. I'll get that pulled up here in a second. Let me switch us on stages real quick, and then let me go to. Okay, there we go.
Okay, if you guys see this guy's name is Tabata. He was the head commander of DGCM when I was there, so he controlled both prisons where I was at. He looks very professional in this photo, but if you saw the photo of Maduro, where he's in Nike gear, that's how this guy acts. If any of our listeners speak Spanish, every other word out of this guy's mouth is "nah, huevo, nah."
You're mute. Your mic's sounding weird.
That's weird. Well, what's the input?
I don't know.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, that's the software because I clicked the exact same microphone. Yeah, so this guy, if anybody's heard my story, you know I was kept in solitary confinement for the first 3 weeks, basically month I was there. Then I was taken to a secondary black site prison. He's the commander of all the forces in charge of both the prisons. As I was being rescued by Richard Grinnell, this guy was with me for the last 12 hours. So I was on tarmac with this guy. I had an opportunity to talk to him. This is one of the guys that wanted me to pass messages to Trump and Marco Rubio, just to give you an idea of like the level of
Your mics.
I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. Testing. Is that better?
Yeah, it's weird. It keeps on going in and out, in and out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that this indicates to me that he got fired. He was the leader of presidential guard as well, as you see. But this is a deal. This is a deal. Those data list. So the fact that Delcy Rodriguez has already handed him, and it's possibly due to his ineptitude and the fact that this strike took place and occurred. But I'd say at the very least, I could tell you that this is what I brought back personally to our government. So I would imagine that's one of the people they want to push out of their government. So to me, it's very promising that he's out. So.
Yeah, but it also doesn't look good. Is mine sounding fine, or is it echoing too?
Yours is fine. Is mine echoing?
Well, no, yours is breaking up, and now it sounds like I'm getting echoes on my end.
I don't hear any echoes. I don't think the audience does either. You could ask them.
Okay, maybe it's just my headphones that are doing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So this guy was just fired this morning. Very, very promising. You have any questions about that, Dr. Hill? I know you're interviewing me. I just wanted to highlight this.
Well, yeah, no, I was going to say is the thing with that is on him is being removed, but also you kind of like, if it was her doing that, then why would she be going after people who helped out Maduro? So like she does and says certain things that make it look like she's trying to show herself strong and that she's mad at the Maduro stuff and all this, and that she's going after people that help the CIA and everything. But then at the same time, she's doing something totally different. It's kind of hard to tell which one she's doing.
I think there's a certain level of,
No, see, the sound is messing up. Let's try. I don't know, restarting the stream. I don't know.
All right.
Because it is messing up on the other end too. All right, everybody that's watching, please look for us again. We are going to reset the live because I think when we got disconnected, it messed it up. So we'll start back up.
You get it going and you send me a text when it's right, okay? Sound good?